Well, it's back to school time, teachers, and this video is for you. I would like to offer some tips, tricks, ideas, suggestions, things that you can incorporate into the classroom that may be helpful to those students of yours that may be struggling with the transition. It could be that, they're exhibiting signs of worry, anxiety, stress. This time of year, all sorts of changes are happening. Changes are happening because the kids are not only returning to school, sometimes parents are returning to work, and other times, they're starting extracurricular activities. So, and then that's just the students that you're teaching, but teachers as well are going through all of these experiences too. So I thought I would start off by talking about the teacher, his or herself. And it's funny, I did a support video for parents, I did a support video for kids that struggle with worry and anxiety, and then one of my friends on Facebook said, "Hey, I'm a teacher, what about supporting the teachers?" And I went, well, I said to myself, well, duh, of course. So as someone who struggled with school anxiety and worry as a child, and then someone who went on to work with children and then went on to teach in the adult education system, I understand how nerves, no matter how old you are, making that transition back to school can be a bit overwhelming. So let's start with teacher, his or herself. So the most important thing is to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because teaching is one of the most difficult, I believe, types of jobs next to being a parent on this earth. And I respect any man or woman who takes this on as a career option, because it is quite an amazing role to have. So making sure that you get enough sleep, making sure that you are eating properly, making sure that your stress levels are maintained goes a long way to making your classroom, one that is fairly stress free. And it all starts with the teacher's energy, I believe. And so if you come to school and you are feeling a little bit stressed or worried or nervous or anxious, however you want to describe it, maybe you're a little bit grumpy, because I'm kind of grumpy sometimes. So, you know, if that's the case, that will actually impact how your classroom will flow and whether or not the children will react accordingly. It's amazing to me how, as a parent and as a teacher, how when we shift our own energy to be more calm and more peaceful, how that goes such a long way to reducing anxiety, worries, fears in our children, as well as those of parents, because sometimes you have your parents hanging around. I'll say hanging around, but they're there because they want to make sure their child is transitioning okay. So always make sure that you're taking really good care of yourself and that you're doing something to nourish yourself mindfully, physically, and spiritually. Really, really critical. So now let's talk about the space itself. Classrooms are odd. They're an odd dynamic because they're a microcosm in a bigger universe, and so it's interesting to me, having been in and participated in many, many classrooms, how the vibe is really different. You probably felt this even when you walk into someone else's home. Some homes are very stiff and starched and professional, starched and professional, and others are kind of laid back and calm. You can probably see in my space, it's really calm. People come here and fall asleep. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you can set up your classroom to have that kind of similar, relaxed yet interesting place. And so one of the things I like to do is bring outdoors in. So my desk is fraught with outdoor items. It is, it has pieces of bark, and it has crystals, and it has things of interest, things that children have given me. And it really is amazing to me how children will walk into this space and immediately feel a little sense of calm and peace, because they start to explore what's on my desk, which when they're exploring, they're not thinking about their worry, their fears, their anxieties. So your environment, incorporating these natural elements, really goes a long way. If you can have a fish tank, they're great. I mean, dental practices use them all the time to help calm patients, because the dentist is not a great place to go for a lot of people. It's very fear inducing. So, having those natural things in there. One of the things I find really interesting is I have a salt lamp that I plug into my laptop, and children are fascinated by it. And there's something about, classrooms are for the most part lit by fluorescent lighting. They are fairly um, prescriptive in the way they are put together. They're usually a rectangular shape, and so putting things in there to make the lighting a little bit different, or creating that vibe from an energetic standpoint. A salt lamp, I've suggested to a couple of teachers that they actually put one in the classroom. The idea is it's supposed to cleanse the air. It gives off salt, similar to if you were going to the sea or to the ocean and you were sitting next to it. They used to do that with patients that had, serious physical conditions. They felt that the sea air would help them heal, and there's a lot of research around this. So one of the things, not only is it a visual interest, but kids love it. They're always curious about it. And I use it and talk to kids about it having the magic in it. So having a salt lamp, and crystals, things that children can manipulate and play with to spark the imagination, but also to calm and soothe. The other idea that many of my teacher friends have incorporated is the use of meditation. So there's a commercial right now here in Canada about children's mental health, and you see a visual of two parents arguing, and you see a little girl sitting at a desk, and then they pan out, and you see that they're talking about how the home environment impacts how the child performs at school, and talks about mental health situations in children. And so I want teachers to be cognizant that everybody brings to school whatever happened to them that morning, good, bad, or ugly. So I believe, and I've encouraged teachers to start off the morning with a little meditation, whereby just stopping the class before morning announcements, or maybe just after morning announcements, where you take some beautiful deep breaths in, and you release. When you breathe out, you release any negative things that happen to you, or any worries or stresses that you bring to the classroom. And you can phrase it age appropriately. And it helps teacher calm down and focus in, and it helps students let go of anything negative. Then the next step is to really get the kids to focus in on having a great day in school. So doing a meditation first thing in the morning to release. Then the second thing, doing a little meditation, and I'm talking it takes like 5 minutes, so 10 minutes out of your curriculum time. The next 5 minutes where you actually talk to the children about focusing in and doing your best learning for that day. You would be amazed at the magic I've seen happen. With my own daughter, she struggled with horrible handwriting, and I had her do a 5 minute, wasn't even 5 minutes, I think it was less than 5 minutes, 2 minute meditation surrounding. So I got her to write a line saying something as simple as "I love mommy," and then that was a little self-serving, wasn't it? And then meditating around improving her handwriting and rewriting it. Do you know that child never struggled with illegible handwriting again? She actually saw the difference in her handwriting. And all I did was I got her to imagine what it was going to be like when her handwriting improved, what the teachers thought, what I thought, that I could actually read what she had written, because she's a beautiful author. And to this day, her handwriting is spectacular. And it was that 2 minute meditation. So I've seen it hyper-focus children in on the tasks that need to be accomplished. And I know in today's curriculum, it's curriculum heavy, and there's a lot of expectations to get through a lot of stuff. So the idea of getting children to let go and then hyper-focus in on what they have to achieve that day, can work wonders for the classroom, and it makes everybody relaxed. So that's another idea. The other thing too is at the end of the day to um, do a mini meditation before they leave school, just to allow them to really appreciate the great things they've accomplished that day. And I'm not saying that it's going to eliminate any of the behaviors that may be in your classroom, but it sure as heck is going to help the students, especially those that are really worried and fret a lot about things, maybe inclined to be a perfectionist. The other thing, speaking of the classroom, is that it in homes, I'm asking parents to set up an OM zone. So a place where a student is feeling overwhelmed, they can go and sit in that space and it's private and quiet. So not all classrooms have the space to do this, but some do. And if you can set up maybe a beanbag chair where, maybe two in separate corners of your classroom where, the lighting is a little bit softer, if students become overwhelmed, and they know they can start to recognize that they're going to have a breakdown, whether they're going to get angry or yell or scream because they're frustrated about something, they then have the permission to leave their desk and go and sit in that space. And they do it very quietly. Maybe you can have a little hand signal that lets them know. Maybe they can have a sticky note on their desk that says I need to go into quiet zone, or it says OM zone. Whatever it is, it just lets them decompress on their own terms. Maybe there's some soft music they can put on, that's in the corner, some meditation music. So there's simple things like that can maybe a bit preventative if a child is really struggling and needs some time out. So that's actually what I did in kindergarten. Is I went and I sat in the bathroom for the first few months of kindergarten. That's where I stayed. The teacher didn't come and try and convince me to come out. What she did is she just let me be in there. The students would come and knock on the door. I would have to let them come in and go to the bathroom, and then I would go back in there. But that was my space, and I needed to do that just to support my own mental health. I found it very overwhelming sitting with all the other children, and you're going to find that some kids are like that. So that's another thing. So, really, those are just a few things, making sure your behavior's in check, starting off with a little meditation, visualization, letting go of any of the stresses or worries they brought to school that morning, then how to get them do a little meditation on getting them focused, setting up an OM zone, bringing in some calming and soothing elements, things from outside. There are just all these, little tips and tricks that I've learned and working with children in my own practice that support kids. And one of the most powerful things you can do for for a child in your classroom is ask them how you can help them, how you can best support them. And most of us come up with solutions without incorporating the child. And it's amazing to me when parents have said this to me. You know what? I never even thought of asking my child. I just saw him or her losing their marbles, and I just came up with, okay, let's try this. Let's try this. And when you suggested to me, very simply ask them, do you know what supports you need right now? They said it never even occurred to us because we want to fix things. But oftentimes children best know what they need, and sometimes it's that they haven't had breakfast in the morning. So being cognizant of their mind, their minds, their mental health, being cognizant of their physical health, being cognizant that their little spirits are allowed to be them, also goes a long way. So I hope that these few little tips help you out. I'd love to hear other things that you've incorporated into your classroom. Maybe you've got journals in there, OM journals. Maybe you've got journals that, if things are bothering, that goes back and forth between you and the students, so the students can, jot down what they're what they need help with, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many things out there for teachers, but it's about opening the dialogue between the teachers to really discuss what are some things to help out. So please let me know if here on Facebook if you have any other tips and tricks. And thank you to my friend who suggested that I do a little support video for teachers. Have a great 2014-2015 transition to school.